Hey guys, what's up? It's Ripe again. In today's video, a homeowner association fined our family for keeping my disabled daughter's wheelchair in our garage for breach of HOA guidelines. When we refused to comply, they called the police on us. Here is what happened. Let's get right into the stories. Hey there everyone, we are the Thompsons and we have gone from a nice quiet life in an idyllic American neighborhood to living in a nightmare faster than you can blink. All thanks to our local HOA. I will preface by saying that we have lived here half a decade without any conflicts with their authority. It wasn't until our eldest daughter Alice moved in as she needed support with her disability, which required a wheelchair most of the time. A busy family that we are, I have to admit our organizing needs a little work. At the best of times, our house looks like the residence of a crazed and eclectic hoarder, and at other times it's practically a junk sale. Because of this, the only place we could keep her wheelchair was out in the garage. As we were in the middle of a heatwave, I kept the garage door open to help cool down the house, but in doing so, I made my first mistake when a number of passers-by noticed the wheelchair and stared at it conspicuously in quiet piqued interest. Word of it must have passed from neighbor to the HOA, as later that week my wife alerted me to a certain piece of mail that I could tell from the wrinkles and creases on her face caused her quite some alarm. It read, "Residents of 38 Blackberry Drive, you are hereby asked to move the wheelchair out of the garage unit according to the rules. Kind regards, Andrew Haverford, HOA term president." We stood dumbfounded as we read through a list of complicated rules and terminology, completely unaware that such a trivial thing would be a problem. Given the circumstances, we optimistically wrote back to them asking for an exception or re-evaluation to be made for our daughter, as we did not believe them at that time to be heartless monsters capable of refusing such a request. We soon, however, found out exactly what we feared. The next letter we got a few days later was crystal clear in indicating that fines would follow if we did not comply soon, and to top this off, the party responsible for handling this case had now been passed off to the president's secretary, as if the matter were too trivial for greater minds. Unfortunately, we spent more time deliberating than we had realized, and then the fines started just as they promised. Each morning I found a new letter in the mail of $100 due to breaking a rule of the local HOA. This continued while we appealed and re-appealed their decision with limitless futility. With each later reply that we sent them, their own replies got later. From a next day dismissal to a week-long wait to hear that they had not changed their minds. After weeks of this, the HOA grew irritated and impatient at our refusal to meet their demands, as we saw when the HOA president himself came knocking on our door one morning in place of a strongly worded letter. In an impassioned speech more benefiting for the Oscars than our front door on a Sunday morning, the president not so kindly informed us that if we did not pay the fines and move the wheelchair immediately, we would be arrested. When we stood our ground and challenged our rights, Mr. Haverford produced a phone from his jacket pocket and swiftly called the police on us, who arrived shortly after, very confused. I exchanged very puzzled looks with the on-duty officer as the HOA president pleaded his case. Citing us as a household of rule breakers and danger to society, it was not my first time dealing with the cops, so rather than turn this into a shouting match, I waited to explain my side of the story, which they seemed happy with despite frequent interruptions from Mr. Haverford trying to undermine me. When the cop tried to resolve the issue and leave peacefully, the HOA president turned his fury upon him as well, demanding action be taken or he would cost the man his job for negligence. A small smirk escaped my face when this caused the cop to take action, but that action was only to caution the temper tantrum old man before he said something he would truly regret. The HOA president stormed off in speechless red rage as the cop left in turn. I had a bad feeling that things were unfortunately only about to get worse for us. When the supposed bill totaled in the thousands, we had no choice but to quit the niceties and reach out to our attorney, a last resort and a ton of hassle we didn't want, but as far as we were concerned, they started this war. The day our attorney delivered them the court notice was the first day I felt that they took us and our interests seriously. Though they kept up the harassment in the same manner a hungry dog would snap at a pork chop. They did so now with more maliciousness or bitterness than before, as if in annoyance that we would be so defiant as to challenge them. I could only hope that this would be resolved quickly. If it came to a battle of attrition, I was quite certain my bank balance would run dry long before theirs did, but unfortunately it was not resolved quickly. It was a waiting game of epic proportions. When our forces met on the battlefield of court the first day, I noticed that my attorney tried to hide a beat of anxiety, understandable for the fact that he was David fighting Goliath, one against the many, with their team of experts to defend their unrighteous cause. Unexpectedly, we were lucky in that the honorable lady judge recognized our mistreatment for what it plainly was and not the facade the HOA tried to play it as. After 2 weeks, the favor was evident and the HOA seemed to shrink, their proud statures diminished in the face of public defeat and shame. So much so that we were approached for a private meeting with the HOA president and their lead attorney. I expected the harassment to continue, but what we received was quite astonishing. The HOA president apologized for the fines and agreed to dismiss all charges against us, offering us a cash settlement of $300,000 as an apology from the HOA if we dropped a lawsuit against them, as well as generously covering all accrued legal costs. But while his words were sweet and kind, I could tell from his attorney lip-reading next to him this was only a rehearsed speech he was told to say. While I can admit I was tempted to refuse the offer and see their greatness fall when the judge brought the hammer down on them, the money was too much for our family to turn down, and so we reluctantly agreed to put this business behind us. Before the final deal was struck, I told them I had one small demand of my own, that their rules are redrawn to become more disability-friendly, a measure that they were only too happy to add. We defied our local HOA and its tyrannical president, refused to comply with their ridiculous demands and did not shrink at their fines. We took them to court and beat them at their own game. And yeah, ripe stars, I would say that is what everybody should do when it comes to HOAs, but obviously not everybody is as lucky or as successful as OP was in this case. I guess some HOAs would not back down as easily as this one. But either way, let's continue to the next stories. The next one is titled HOA Busybody Karen Calls 911, Claims I'm an intruder in my own home. I get her blacklisted from her job and shut down her business. I have never been the type for revenge, but sometimes you just have to take matters into your own hands, especially when an HOA douche Karen is involved. So we have all experienced our fair share of annoying or bad neighbors, and this story is my bad neighbor experience story. Except the HOA is involved, so you know, it is 10 times worse. And I know everyone I knew told me not to move into an HOA neighborhood, but the house was just so beautiful and the price was not bad. However, as soon as we moved into the house, our next door neighbor started reporting us right away to the HOA. Now, we do have 3 kids. All relatively close in age and under the age of 12, so you know, they like to run around outside, play on their bikes, the usual kid stuff. Well, this is the first thing that Karen started reporting, and the first report was that we left the kids' bikes outside irresponsibly. First of all, we never leave toys or anything like that outside. The kids were still playing outside and just came inside for a quick minute or two to grab some water bottles. And even if we did leave it outside irresponsibly, it was on our lawn and not in anyone's way. So why was Karen concerned? The HOA did come out to investigate, but they did not find anything. Plus, leaving one of our own bikes out on our lawn is not an HOA violation. However, it didn't stop there. The next week we forgot to mow our lawn during the weekend. My husband always mows the lawn front and back on the weekends, but this weekend we were busy and forgot to do it. So guess who called to report us to the HOA because our grass was too long? Yep, you guessed right, it was Karen. It's honestly ridiculous. This lady did not even wait for us to introduce ourselves before she decided we would have some neighborly tension. We moved in during the winter months and the reports and complaints kept going until the summer. Well, not that they stopped after that, but it is where I got revenge. So basically, the complaints and reports from Karen kept coming every week. If there was a week without a complaint, we were surprised. Each time we were never found in violation of anything because we did not do anything, so we never got fined for these complaints anyway. However, during the beginning of the summer, we ended up having a board meeting with the HOA because they were getting so many complaints about us, they were trying to fine us for it finally. I thought that this was ridiculous because even when they came out to inspect, they said violations, they never found anything. At this point, we finally decide to confront our terrible neighbor Karen. We decided to ask her what was up and what problems she had because she clearly had a problem with us. Her only response? "You guys just are not good neighbors and I want you gone, okay?" I guess, but even if she thought we were bad neighbors, the HOA board never found anything or fined us, so we did end up having a meeting about the fine they were trying to give us for the excessive complaints, but we ended up being able to get rid of those. We just had to waste 3 hours of our time anyways, so right after this I found out from another neighbor that Karen actually had her own website and small business. So of course I am extremely nosy and I had to check it out. Apparently, she ran some wellness website where she frequently sold the idea of natural medicine. While I definitely agree that Earth can provide us natural treatments, her website was absolutely bogus. One of her posts talked about ditching your prescription medicines and instead replacing them with essential oils. First of all, essential oils can be ingested. Second of all, there are some things that even nature cannot cure without medicine. I poked around her website and saw that she was signing her posts as Dr. XXX Naturopathic Physician. Well, that is interesting because as far as I knew, she was a stay-at-home mom. Never saw her leaving for work early in the morning and never anything that would signal she worked in healthcare. So I decided to search her up on the internet and see if I could find anything else. It turns out that Karen used to be a naturopathic physician, but her license got revoked. What a plot twist. So guess what I did? I reported her to the state board. Within the first few days, posts on her website were locked or deleted, and after that, her website was missing completely. Apparently, she had been served a cease and desist for her practice, and one other person actually reported her for the dangerous advice she was giving under the premise that she was a doctor. Karen does not bother us anymore though, although we never told her it was us who complained about her. Maybe she finally learned her lesson. And the next one is titled, "My Karen Neighbor Went Too Far." And by the way, Ripe Stars, if you enjoy these stories about crazy Karens and neighbors, then I would really appreciate it if you could post some star emojis in the comments and maybe even like the video. Thank you so much in advance. So last night I posted about my Karen neighbor, and well, last night she also pushed too far. My girlfriend and I were outside on the front deck playing video games. I brought the TV out so we could play some games, have a beer and just enjoy the evening. It was about 7 PM. My girl and I are having a few rounds of Mario Kart 64, in my opinion the best one, and by the way I disagree with that, the GameCube one is better in my opinion. Anyway, when Karen gets home and marches her ass over to say, "What do you think you're doing?" She was referring to the TV on the deck, the beer in hands, or the general enjoyment of life. I replied, "Just enjoying our evening." Karen told me to take all the crap and my lovely girl inside. It's not the place for this crap. And that is when she finally pushed too far and I snapped. I stood up and told her to shut her mouth, get the F off my property, or in going to drag her off. Karen laughed at me, saying, "I have no idea what's going on." Karen said she sees cars and men going into my home all day when I am at work. And yeah, Karen is not wrong. A lot of people stop by during the day to see me. She has the girlfriend's car and mine mixed up. She does not realize I basically work from home. I get even more pissed and walk to the stairs to confront her, and she waddles back to her house in a hurry. The cops show up 30 minutes later with a complaint. Today I went to the police station and they gave me reason 7894 why I hate them. They refused to do anything about her. They would not take a report, just nothing. They said it's a personal matter, it's my problem. They told me to just stay inside if she does not like me, the deck, because it's causing them problems. The only damn reason I chose this house though was that beautiful front deck. I saw it as a perfect hangout for my friends and I. Well, today I had plans to take the bikes out with my crew and cruise down the highway, but because of all this, the plans changed. I called one of my buddies, Bruce, we call him Hot Dog. He's a hot dog vendor downtown Toronto, and Bruce got the word out about the change of plans. Now, the revenge is a very simple thing: drive Karen crazy, piss the cops off, and just enjoy life. So I'm gonna leave out some important information until we get to the point that the cops arrive. Some information about my friends and I: we are all big burly men, most of us are covered in tattoos, and if I said a biker, that's what we look like. Except for Frost, he's a short guy. My friends get to my place at about 1 p.m. You could hear them arrive at 6 very big, very loud Harleys pull up in your driveway. The entire house shakes. It's a thing of beauty. The crew dismounts and we start our day, just having a grand old time on the front of my place. Karen eventually waddles her ass out of her house and we crank up the music. This time it was Barbie Girl. And then when she starts walking over to my home, we just all start booing her. Karen stops dead in her track, jaw almost hitting the ground, and walks back into her home. We went back to enjoying our lives. Cops show up. Now it is time to describe what was actually going on. Well, the cops pull up and they step out. The looks on their face, it was glorious. Picture this, 7 big burly, most of us bearded tattooed men sitting shirtless in short shorts sitting at a full-size poker table. And yeah, I brought out my poker table, playing cards with money on the table, smoking weed with a few beers. By the way, all perfectly legal, check the bylaws, as long as it is at least 5 feet away from the public sidewalk. Well, the cops were pissed off that they are getting annoyed being called to my house now on a daily basis. They want me to just do whatever Karen wants. After some words and some fast talk from my buddy Soup Boy, his last name is Campbell, he's a criminal defense lawyer, he works as legal aid lawyer, the cops knew there was nothing they could do. I told the cops that if they don't do something about Karen, this is going to happen every single day until they tell her to stop being a Karen. So the cops went over to Karen's place and she came outside, did some fake crying, pointing and screaming at us big boys. As she was doing that, we got extra mischievous and turned on the sprinkler. Now with classics from the Backstreet Boys playing on the stereo, cops came back to talk to us how long we were going to be. We said, all day, and when they went back to their car, we waved bye and said see you tomorrow. Karen closed all the curtains in her house and my friends just called taxis to go to their respective hotels. We were doing this all again tomorrow. Oh, and by the way, I need to add something. My 70-year-old neighbor on the other side came out at around 6 p.m. to see what was going on. I love this guy, he's an old school hippie. He sat down and had a joint with us. He gets harassed by Karen a lot and hopes we keep it up. He's going to come over tomorrow with a few joints of his homegrown weed, so score. Tomorrow is gonna be fun. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I gotta say, while this guy is certainly good at inflicting petty revenge on this Karen, I am not sure if I would want to be the neighbor of either of these people. And the next one is titled, I made my neighbor late for work. I posted this on Am I the A-hole and someone suggested I should post it here too. I should add that I know what she is doing is not against the law, but it is rude and annoying. Another thing a lot of people tried to say was, it is illegal to block driveways. I know this, I blocked my own driveway. That is not illegal where I live, but blocking someone else is. Another thing I had to cut out of the Am I the A-hole post because of the character limit was that my dad is disabled and she knows this and still continues to park like a jackass. We have talked to her about how hard she makes my dad's life, and so has her landlord M, but she continues to do it. I, 22 female, live at home. We have a neighbor, M, who is renting out the rooms in his house to K. Has been living in the room now for about a year. She has 3 cars for no reason, 2 are Camrys and the other is a Sentra. Before she moved in, my sister and I would always park in front of our house. My dad made it a point that we were to only park in front of our house because 1, he thinks it is rude to park in front of neighbors' houses because it is the front of their property, and number 2, we have security cameras that are only pointed at our property, so if something were to happen to our cars, it would be on camera. Now that Kay lives there, she parks 1 car in the driveway, another in the middle of the street in front of M's house, and the other Camry in front of our house. There is no room for another car anywhere. The street that can fit maybe 4, maybe 5 cars now only has 2 cars on it. My sister and or I don't have anywhere to park, so we have to go to the neighborhood over to park. A while ago my dad put the trash cans in front of our house as per usual, and when I was coming home from work I got stuck behind the trash pick-upper guy and he passed our house. I noticed that the trash can was up on the curb and Kay was parked where the trash cans were supposed to be. They are usually on the street, and once it is emptied, Dad takes it to the house. The trash was full. Kay moved our trash cans to park in front of our house. I ran the trash can to another block to see if the trash guy would still take it. Another neighbor, B, saw me doing this and helped. B helped me bring them back, told my dad what happened, and then Dad went over to K and told her never to touch the trash cans again and to stop parking in front of our house. He explained why, cameras, my daughters cannot park, etc. It is now December and it has not stopped. My dad called M and asked him to talk to K. We heard M yelling at K, but it still has not changed anything. A few days ago, she parked the Camry in front of our house and took the Sentra out. When I got home, I decided to park in front of her, blocking my parents' driveway and leaving no room for her to get out from the front. My sister got home and I had her park behind K's Camry and left her no room behind either. The next morning I was getting ready with the window open and Kay asked me to move one of the cars so she can leave and that she was running late. I told her that I was taking a shower and she would have to wait. It is not my fault that she is running late, and if this was such a problem, she should stop taking up so much space with two little cars. She struggled for 20 minutes but did end up getting out. Since then, I've been doing this daily and my family and other neighbors like B help by telling me how close to get. But anyway, if you have any neighbors like that, please feel free to share your own stories in the comments, and either way, I hope you enjoyed today's video and I will see you again tomorrow.